Chaminade. You walked into Chaminade, almost 20 some odd years ago as a student for the first time. How does it feel? Talk about that journey from first seeing Chaminade from the eyes of a student to now leading young men at Chaminade High School as the Red Devils head coach.
I mean, it's a great feeling. It comes with a healthy burden, just because it's your alma mater. You know how much pride you have in the school and the institution, and then on top of that, what the teachers, faculty, and staff did for you personally. So to be in a position like this, it means a lot, and you want to make sure that the kids and the students that you're able to come in contact with have a similar experience, to where when they leave the school, they're better students, but most importantly better people, man, because that's what our world needs. So I love it. And when you talk about when I talk about the burden, I mean, you get baptized by fire, man. You get your first year, you got a couple NBA players on your roster, man. Like, there's no margin for error. But man, all is good, man. You love that stuff.
Right. Now, and we gonna get a chance to talk about that. One
Mhm.
of the things that always stood out to me, just as a player, just watching you as a ball player, just us coming up, but just how you was able to, me watching you, just seeing how great and how much pride you took in just shooting the basketball, moving without the ball, being just a complete scorer. Talk about just the nature of how you grew up playing basketball. When did you fall in love with it? And then how did you get to the level of just being real skillful as a high school player?
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, when we were younger, we played buckets. The kids probably don't know what buckets is. And
Hmm.
sometimes the game bucket, you could have 15, 20 people playing buckets, right?
Right.
So, so there was this guy, Jayson who lived kind of through the woods behind my house. And he was an older guy. He was probably about 10 years older than me. And so anytime I heard, basketball was bouncing,
Hmm.
he was kind of OG that kind of looked out for me and would allow me to come down and play with him. And BT, the only opportunities I would have to score were on long rebounds. I had to shoot the ball,
Hmm.
so I couldn't go in and score on some of the older guys. So the only way I could even compete against some of these older guys was being able to shoot from distance, right?
Hmm.
So that's how it honestly got started. And then as you progress older, you get older and you start playing against other people, you start stealing stuff from what they do. And one of the things that I always loved was how Reggie Miller moved without the basketball.
Hmm.
He just had a motor, and that was the easiest thing I could put in my game, to raise my overall level of play. I was a straight line guy with the basketball. I wasn't like you. I couldn't. The ball wasn't on the string for me. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I had to find other ways to leverage, to leverage either other advantage I could come up with, and that was it, man. Just moving without the basketball and just being ready to attack as soon as I caught, and if I didn't, move it and keep moving my body. But that's something that I still believe in today, man. A lot of kids, they train with basketballs and cones, and they don't understand that you can score without the basketball if you know what you're doing. And that's something that honestly got me to the next level, man.
Hmm. No, that's big because I was gonna kind of lead into that, and I was gonna be say like, were you a firm believer, even just growing up, of like training? Having like you said, everybody nowadays has some type of coach. You got a strength coach, you got your dribbling coach, you got your shooting coach. How much time did you spend actually on working on skill work, or was it just playing? Was that just the bread and butter, just playing basketball, or was it like honing in on skill for the majority of the time?
Yeah, so all these kids nowadays, and it's not a bad thing. They all have trainers, right? And so they're heavy on the skill development side of things. But when I was in high school, I probably had as much time as they did training wise playing basketball.
Right.
And so for example, what I would try and do is, if like you handle the ball well and I wanted to learn what you would do, I would go guard you. I
Hmm.
wanted to go guard the best, and that was kind of a front row seat to trying to be able to steal things that other people had. So we didn't necessarily go and and throw up cones and work on all this stuff. We would get our shots up daily. We would, we'd play one-on-one daily, but we would learn up close and personal by trying guarding the guys that you wanted to steal from.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. And, as a result, I actually could, I became a decent defender too.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of the situation is, that's how we learned. If you wanted something that someone else had, you went and you guarded them, and you try to cut their water off and try to see what made them who they were.
Hmm. So even like so, just moving up and just making that transition into high school. What was it like going into high school? I mean, nowadays, I mean, us as high school coaches, we're starting trying to, look for kids in middle school with so many different games that are played on the weekends. Was going into high school something to where you knew all about the high school scene? Like, I'm going to go to Chaminade, and I know our rivals are going to be this. I can't wait to play in this particular game. Like, what was your outlook going into high school, and did you have any goals and expectations right off the bat?
Yeah, so I actually didn't know I was going to Chaminade until about midway through the summer, between my eighth grade year and my freshman year. So I
Hmm.
thought I was going to Webster, and then my parents thought about hey, we want you to get pushed a little bit academically too, and so we started looking around at some of the schools, and they fell in love with Chaminade, and they were like, this is where we want you to go. And with my parents, you didn't necessarily say, hey, I didn't want it. You don't talk back or do any of that
Right.
stuff. So when they said, this is where you're going, this is where you're going.
Hmm.
And, BT, honestly, was the best decision of my life, from a basketball standpoint, academic standpoint, and a personal standpoint. But along the lines of basketball, once you get thrown into, once I got thrown into, the Chaminade world, then you start to take note of some of the rivalries, the Chaminade versus CBCs, the DeSmets, the
Hmm.
SLUs and the Vianney's, and then, even at that time, some of the public schools, like, when I was coming up, we had some good battles with Hazelwood East and Hazelwood
Hmm.
Central and Pattonville. Um, so you get thrown into the fire, and you look at it and you're just like, man, one day I want to be a part of these rivalries, man. So,
Right.
I thought I worked hard on my game before, but then when you start seeing what could potentially be, you get laser focused on it. So that's what I did, man. I literally lived in the gym, man. If I wasn't in the gym, I was in a book somewhere, trying to keep up
Man.
academically. But but yeah, that was it, man. I just wanted to be a part of, the great battles. And fortunately, especially as I was a junior, senior, we had some heavyweight battles with DeSmet and CBC and SLU and Vianney, and battles that I still think about today.
Right. Man, Coach Kelvin Lee was your high school coach, and
Absolutely.
I had a pleasure of working with Coach Lee here at St. Mary's. And then, how does it feel to come into a situation at the ground level? Like right now, we know Chaminade is like a national powerhouse, but early 2000s, early, late 90,
Oh,
the 90s, Chaminade was just kind of like, who? No, nobody
right,
was really
right.
tripping on Chaminade. So speak to that as far as being at the ground level and then watching this program just blow to where it is now.
Yeah, there's so much to it, man. Like when I was a sophomore and I got my jersey, sophomore in varsity, BT, man, the drawstring was hanging out of my shorts, man. We had some Rawlings jerseys, man. Rawlings
Hmm.
jerseys. And
Yeah.
I'm not sitting up here, talking down anybody who's got
Nah.
those jerseys, but at the time, it was bottom of the barrel as far as,
Right.
that was concerned. So, to be where we're at now, you have a sense of pride associated with it just because we've come a long way as a program. But Coach Lee did a good job, in numerous ways. Um, we ran triangle offense, because we had David Lee in the middle and Ted Morris in the middle.
Hmm.
That was the same offense I ran for my 3 years in college. So I was adequately
Right.
prepared there. Um, and all the little things that you don't really think about as far as, um, getting a thorough dose of basketball terminology, X's and O's. So at an early age, uh, he approached it as a college level program. We had thorough
Right.
scouting reports, we had playbooks. We had tryouts that were brutal. Our practices were intense. The expectations were high. So those are things that you just try and leverage and build on, because they were successful for him, and you put your own twist on it, from the basketball minds that you've been around, and your own personal take. So, we've come a long way, man. From those days where we were kind of the seller in some regards. When people saw Chaminade, they were like, oh, it's an easy win, and now people are circling Chaminade because fortunately we can be pretty good, and we get other teams' best, and that's what we try and
Right.
prepare our guys for. But we've come a long way, and the goal is to keep providing a platform for young men to get the most out of their experience, both as a student, an athlete, and when they leave us, just like when
Hmm.
kids leave you, you want them to be men that are going to do something productive in society, and so it has never changed. We're just
Right.
fortunate to be able to do it in a more visible way from a basketball standpoint.
Right. So now, I mean, just talk about playing with a pro like David Lee. I mean, I had the pleasure of playing with Dave probably
Yeah,
his eighth grade year, and he was like around 6 feet tall. So I mean, he played
right,
on the perimeter a little bit, but I just always remember this kid never really getting in the game, getting pushed
right,
around, and then the
right.
very next year, it was like he shot up. He still had those guard skills, and
That's
now
right.
he's 6'9", being able to rebound, push it up the court, doing all those different things. Do you remember a time where you guys kind of, was it a game or a time throughout your high school career that made you just feel like, man, I think we arrived? Because for me, it was playing in the shootout, the
Yes,
KMOX shootout. So,
yes,
when me as growing up eighth grade, going into my ninth grade, I set goals saying, man, if a high school player, if I can make it to the shootout, then I feel like I've made it.
that's
Was
it.
there a point during your high school career that you just said, man, I think Chaminade is on the map?
Yeah,
Was it a game or a particular time?
yeah. So it was. I think it was going from our sophomore year to junior year. Because uh, especially at the time, the preseason tournament, was at least that was like Kraken was Pattonville's tournament.
Oh
And
man.
so like they had everybody and I'm talking about it. They would play it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and
Hmm.
and if you were fortunate to make it to the championship, the Friday night game was jam packed. Jam packed.
Hmm.
Earl Austin was there. The newspapers were there. The cameras on the sideline, and we're not talking about the little cameras that everybody has now.
Right.
Because social media wasn't a thing when we played. Um, but but they Channel 5 would be out, and
Right.
so I mean it was a big deal, man. And so that was one of those situations to where as a freshman, we were both on Dave and I were on JV. At the end of the year, he got pulled up. I mean, honestly, he should have been pulled up a long time ago. He should have played no JV basketball. Um, but then sophomore year, I was kind of I was probably like number 8, 9 off the bench. Um, I probably wasn't ready for all the smoke, but I wanted it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Um, so I was thrown in a little bit, from time and time again. David got a whole. He started as a sophomore. He got heavy action, but then, when Dave was here, finally as juniors, the rest of us were mature enough as basketball players to kind of meet him and support him in trying to win. You know what I mean? And so that first Pattonville tournament was nuts. We're going through, and I think there's a couple times where Dave got a break and he put it. I'm talking about he jumped off of one, put it at his ankle, and punched the thing. And you just feel the juice. You're like, man, we're here.
Hmm.
And it made all the hard work worth it, just
Right.
because very a lot of kids don't know what it's like to go literally from the mud up, and that's what it felt like. It felt like um, we were able to take the program, from a certain level, to new heights. And we had been good in the past before. That's what a lot of people don't realize, but we weren't consistently good like that. And
Hmm.
so I would think it was that Pattonville tournament, and then like you just alluded to, we were able to play in the shootout, our junior and senior years. We we lost to Murfreesboro, who had a big man and then a wing that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
But in that game, Dave dunked on somebody, and I mean, it was a poster, you know what I mean? And we played well, but we didn't play well enough to win, obviously. And then our senior year, we played Centralia, and they were really good. I think they're still the most winningest high school
Right.
team
I
in the
was gonna
country.
say, yeah, they have so many wins, and
Right.
that's just a historical program just across the board. Yeah.
Right, right. And so, we were able to put it together and win at the shootout. And to your point, it was like, man, we got to win at the shootout. And then we did some traveling too, which was great. So it was a good career, man. It was a good experience for me at Chaminade, and it prepared me for the next level.
hmm Yeah, and I want to kind of touch on that. So
Yeah.
Springfield. I mean, man, you were blessed to be a 1,000 point scorer, man, at Drury University. So how was the transition like? Because even just like you alluding to just being coached by Coach Lee, who's fresh off a college job, so he's
Mhm.
coming into it real intense with the scouting reports, with just his
Right.
whole preparation. Would you feel like that you were thoroughly prepared for soon as you hit Drury to like, man, I'm kind of dialed in on the mental part, as far as the X's and O's. It's just all about me just working hard every single day. How was your experience at Jury?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I couldn't have asked for a better setup. You know what I'm saying? Coach Lee prepared me. I mean, we literally ran triangle for my freshman through junior year. Because we had an All-American big man, Chris Mortellero, and and so I stepped in, and the playbook was almost identical. So I was ahead in that regard. And you just at some point you fall in love with working.
Mm-hmm.
And I credit that to being just being a student of the game and just loving to play basketball. So I was I felt like I was right on track. And then someone else who really helped me personally, my freshman year, I played behind a senior All-American, Matt Miller, and I mean his jersey's retired at Drury, the whole nine, and he kind of took me under his wing, and just kind of showed me the expectations, and his expectations, how he worked, and there were times where we would get finished playing a home game, and he'd be like, Frank, come on, and we would go to the small gym, the back gym or whatever, and we get shots up, and I'm like, man, I'm in heaven. I'm around other people who love this game like this and want to work. Man, I couldn't ask for nothing better. And so that's what we did. And when you do that over the course of time, you look up and you're like, man, I had a really successful career, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't because I was anything special. I just love to work, man. I love to play basketball.
Right.
So yeah, man, I was prepared, man. I
Yeah.
really was.
And I mean, and you had the IQ for it. So for the people that might be listening to this, explain a triangle offense because I think this generation and even like young folks, it's a complex offense. I mean, I started running it in like sixth, seventh, eighth
Right,
grade, and was just blessed to have a coach that was able to teach us this. But it was kind of like one of those offenses that the Tex Winners, Chicago Bulls, Phil Jackson, all of them made it famous in the '90s, and then the
right.
Lakers, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers kind of perfected it, put their own little twist on it. But just kind of break that down. And then, do you think something like the triangle offense can work in today's basketball? And then we'll touch back up on
Sure.
jury just because you alluded,
Yeah,
you talked about that.
yeah. So there's so many different variations to it, right? I mean, I think one of the things, especially at that time, was basketball was such a sport that was dominated by traditional bigs. You know what I mean? Guys that could score with their backs to the basket. They
Right.
didn't want to step out and shoot jump shots. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to put the ball on the floor. They didn't want to bring it up the court. They didn't want to do any of that stuff. They wanted to catch on the block and go to work. And so the variations that we used was um, obviously there were different ways to get into the triangle, but once you were in the triangle on one side of the court, you would make a post feed, and the guy who passed the ball could cut. You could scissor off the post. You can split screen off the post. You could do a whole bunch of different actions, but the essence of it was to try and form a triangle on one side of the court, and have two other guys on the other side. And then based upon where the ball went, it told you what you had to do. And so we did that in high school, and then we did it in college. Um, it really fit the way that I think and process things. Um, but to be very honest with you, I'm not a big fan of it as a coach right now. I think it's hard to control whether or not you have those pieces, and I also think that in some regards, it can make you play a little bit slower. Um, we typically don't. I mean, we've had teams in the past where we've had some size, but that's not something over the course of your coaching career you can bank on.
Right.
So I think so. My last year in college, I played for a guy named Steve Hesser, who was a complete polar opposite of what I'd ever seen and learned. And he was a motion offense guy through and through. I mean, you talk about like polar opposites, man. We didn't have any scout reports, man. We didn't have any scout reports. His motto was, if you can't figure out what the other team's trying to do in the first 2 minutes of the game, I probably shouldn't have you a jury. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
so like,
Okay.
I mean, he was no joke, man.
Hmm.
Um, and the way he approached the game, he didn't ton of drills and all this stuff, whereas that was all I was used to. We did a whole bunch of different defensive drills, a whole bunch of different offensive breakdown drills that built up to the triangle. And what he did was we did shell drill, we did 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and 5-on-5 every day.
Hmm.
And I mean, at the college level, that's what we did. But then you just learn how to play basketball, and so I fell in love with that just because it fit different types of personnels. There's different ways to attack with different type of kids. There's a way to play if you got a whole bunch of guys that are 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". You don't have to bank on having a 6'9" guy down there or a 6'8" guy down there or some dynamic player. And you could teach kids how to play basketball. And we've tried to mimic that style of play for all but one of our years, as all of my years here at Shaman except for one. Just because I think that you really get into the players' mindset and their basketball IQ, and you teach them how to play the game of basketball. Um, it does require you to give up some control, because you can't control it every single time down. But you teach the kids how to play on principle, which at the end of the day, I personally believe helps kids, play at the next level. They're so prepared because they played basketball. Um, they played in motion, and they're reading screens, they're defending screens, they know their role, they know how they fit in the bigger piece. They understand how to value the basketball and reading some automatic actions and all these different things that when they get to the next level, they're ahead of the curve. And that's the goal, man. That's the goal, just to
Right.
put the kids in positions to excel. So um, I'm thankful for the triangle offense. It was good for me as a high
Right.
schooler, good for me, as a college player. But I'm also thankful for the fact that I was able to see something completely different.
Right. So how early does it start at Chaminade as far as you trying to get guys ready, as far as like, teaching different concepts that, again, we come from, we're not in a situation where we know in some years we know what kids we're gonna get coming in next year that may be a freshman, but we're not in like a public school to where we know, little Johnny is coming up in
Hopefully,
the
yeah.
sixth grade. So let me contact the middle school coach and make sure that
Right.
he's running certain things. How
Right.
early does it start for you trying to put in your system at Chaminade? And does it happen real soon, or is it kind of like a gradual process with you knowing the kids that you're going to get coming in?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully this year it's the first year we've been able to practice, in the off season.
Hmm.
So we hit the ground running from the first day on, and so so we're teaching some of the principles to some of our freshmen, to some of our freshmen right now, to kind of get them ingrained in some of it, just because. You know how it is. Some kids come in and they were really good middle school players, but high school is just a different level. So the sooner we can get them acclimated to the high school level, the better off they are, as individuals. And then the sooner they can impact our program as far as a winning, winning standpoint is concerned. So we hit the ground running. We're trying to teach them concept. I mean, stuff that everybody's trying to teach. Baseline drifts, one more pass, shot discipline, playing off of two, rebounding with two. Specifically for motion, for our motion, we're trying to teach them how to read screens. If the guy goes under, you pop. If the guy is in your hip pocket, tight curl, and then how to second cut off of that. So these are things that, some of those things require daily maintenance, and so it's really been beneficial for us to be able to do those things a little bit earlier so we can educate them. And then you know how it is, as their skill develops, they can really begin to help us. So we hit the ground running, man. We hit the ground running, and I think they enjoy that.
All right. And then even when the way that you come up with a basketball philosophy, do you take from pretty much all your years of playing, or does it constantly change? Is it constantly evolving? Like how do you determine what your basketball philosophy is that you want to teach across the whole board through, the freshman to the senior coming in the program?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very good to constantly challenge what you know.
Hmm.
Just because one of the things I don't want to do is be the same coach last year as I was this year, and or the same coach, 10 years from now as I am today. So that's what you do. You just are constantly looking around, and the crazy thing is, before you had to just watch a game. Now we've got YouTube, we've got Twitter, we got Instagram. We can record games. You can watch games on your laptops. So we're at an all-time high as far as the amount of information we can consume. So, so personally, there's things that I believe in, like through and through.
Hmm.
But those tend to be principle based, right?
Right.
How we get that principle across can change from year to year. Um, the year we won state, we didn't run motion. And one of the reasons why we didn't run motion was because you know, I had to get, it was smart of me to just try and make sure that Jayson Tatum got a shot. You know what I mean? I think
Right.
every coach in America would do that, right?
Hmm.
Um, and motion offense didn't lend itself to being able to control that every single time down. Um, and so we went away from it for a couple years, and then we went right back to it. And then
Hmm.
a couple years later, um, it was the best thing for that team. We happen to made it to the state championship game that year. Um, so I think it's healthy to challenge what you know, to keep making sure that it's what's best for the current group of kids. Uh,
Right.
I don't believe in just getting comfortable and run the same things over and over again just because it's easier. No, man, I want to grow. I want to be better for the kids. Every single year. I want my 20th year. I want to be the best coach I've ever been for any group of kids that I've coached. You know what I mean? I
Right.
think
Right.
that's I
No.
think that's what they deserve.
Man, that's huge. So let's just speak to that. So you come
So
in, 2000, say 2012, 2013, you take over for your high school coach, and I know it was a lot of pressure in that regard. But how did you navigate that season? As far as, did you have anybody that you confide into? Did you have anybody that you kind of reached out to kind of help you get through this? Because I mean, for folks that don't know, man, being a head coach, it's a lot of pressure.
it's a lot.
When we
It's a
win the
lot.
games, man, we the best coaches in the world. When we lose a game, oh man, how did he get that job? He
Right.
shouldn't even be out there. So, how was that process? Did you have anybody that you kind of relayed to just to make sure that you kept your sanity throughout that year and then moving forward?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that, and you and I have talked offline about this numerous times. I think some of this has to do with the staff that you keep. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
and I'm very fortunate that the guys that are on staff um, with us over here, um, they're tight. They're loyal. They're about the program, and they're willing to support you in whatever capacity, support in whatever capacity it looks like. Um, that's the number one thing for me. And like I owe our coaching staff far more than what they owe me, man, because they do a tremendous job of just finding ways to add value and help. Um, the other thing I would say is, especially early on, One of my best friends, Kevin Thomas, was the head coach at State Fair Community College for close to 10 years, and so he actually, before he was the head coach, he was the assistant coach for both of our assistant coaches at Drury, Dale Rebel, who's now the head coach at Westminster High School here in St. Louis. So I really leaned on those two heavily, just because, Coach Ribble has a resume. He comes from a basketball family. He just gets it. He knows what it is. He knows the pressures. He knows how to navigate things. And so I would make it a point just to call him up and rap to him about things that I'm going through or situations, and just to pick his brain. And same with Kevin Thomas, another guy that just has a whole bunch of experience. And then also I would leverage my head coach for my senior year, especially Steve Hesser. He would come in town, and I would just make it a point to have a notepad, have a ton of questions for him, and just fire away and shut up and listen. You know what I mean? Right. Just because there's nothing that's going to come out of my mouth that's smarter than what they got to say. So I need to shut up and listen. And right. That really helped, man, just because at the end of the day, we're in a profession where people, the experts all sit in the seats, you know what I mean? And they critique your job, but very few people have been in your position, and can offer, advice from a good place to help you be the best you can be. And so when you find people like that, you hold on to them. So I'm indebted to KT. I'm indebted to Dale Ribble. I'm indebted to Steve Hesser for giving me their time, and just an opportunity to talk and rap about basketball and life, man, because it's a grind. And BT, I'd be a horrible husband to say, my wife is not, trumps them all for the mere fact that, you just come home sometimes and you just might be in a mood or feel a certain type of way, and she just always has the right words, and just knows the right things to say, even if it is just like give me a little bit of space, a little bit of distance, or just locking in and just hearing what you're going through. So that support system, starting with her, is huge. It's huge.
Yeah. No, even to like the young coaches, and not just coaches. I mean, just people, just in general, man. When you're working, man, it's great to have mentors. It's great to
Yes.
have people that you can, call up to, like you said, just shoot the breeze. And
So,
relationships are so key. So that's why I'm always a big advocate of not burning bridges. Like even
right,
when you navigating through the world, have somebody that you can go back and talk to. It may just somebody that may be in the field of the things that you're trying to do. And then you
right,
made a great point. I mean, just sometimes you just have to be quick to listen, and slow to speak, and just sit back
right.
and not, interject. Just kind of pick up all of the wisdom that folks are giving you during that time. So no, I think that's key and that's valuable because um, I'm kind of like in the same boat, leaning on a lot of my former coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and then even guys that's been around me from since I've been young that can let me know when I'm getting out of line or if I'm doing
Right,
something that they know that's not principle based. Like
right, right,
like
right,
BT, man, you weren't raised like that, and
right.
you shouldn't do that. So having loyal guys around you is key in this day and age. Do you think loyalty is thrown out the window when it comes to the game of basketball, or do you think that once you find loyal guys, it's just a breath of fresh air just to have around you?
So, so I think two different things. One, I think loyalty it comes with, there's no price tag on it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? At all. You know, um, loyal people just in whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be basketball related.
Right.
Um, is huge. But then specifically with basketball, and this isn't anything new. It's just manifested itself differently as time progressed. But I think recently people are in love with what basketball can give them. You know what I mean? Like they love what basketball can bring them. So they love the fame. They love the attention. They love the social media following. They love the gear, they love the atmosphere, and I think that like I think there's a problem with that because before all of that, you got to love basketball.
Man,
You got to
speak
love
on it,
basketball,
man. You gotta love the game. You
and
know?
and you know, and that's something that I wish a lot of I hope a lot of the younger basketball players coming up. I hope that they love the game before they pursue some of the other things because,
Mhm.
first of all, there's no guarantee that you're going to get any of the other things, and number two, with the way social media is and everybody getting a mixtape and likes and shares and reposts and all this stuff, you can lose your way if you're not really locked into what really matters.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I felt that I'm thankful for is we didn't have to go through that. We didn't have to like BT. I think the biggest thing was the shoebox of how many letters you got. You know what I'm
Oh
saying? Like
man,
that
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 was
like
that was the thing right there, you know?
that was the thing, and just having a shoebox full of letters. But we didn't have social media stuff. We didn't have any of that, man. And so these kids nowadays are facing something that is a little bit more in depth than what we grew up with. So that's my biggest thing. I just wish, that I just hope, not wish, I hope that these kids coming up learn to love the game, man. Learn to
Mhm.
love, you know, shooting outside, when it just gets finished, when, on a wet driveway or wet pavement with dirty hands, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or having a basketball that, is completely worn out, but it's your rock, it's your ball,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the one that's yours. Or learning how to adjust your shot when it's windy outside because you got to win and it's game point. You know what I mean? Even knowing what game point is, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Mhm.
Or being in a gym where you're playing so hard because you not only do you want to win, but if you lose, the next time you play might be an hour and a half later because the gym is so heavy. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like these are
Mhm.
these are things that some of these lessons get some of these things make you fall in love with the game and they're not present today. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So and that's my big thing, man. I just
Mhm.
I just with how much the prizes are thrown in these kids' face. Sometimes the prize is the journey, man.
Right.
And in order to fall in love with the journey, you got to love the game. Does that make any sense,
No,
man?
no, that makes perfect sense. Like, I mean, and we kind of talked about this. Like, I love when kids just when they buy in with the sweat equity of just
Yes.
doing things on the strength of, man, we know that if we want to do it, we have to do it. So even like growing
Yeah.
up, if you know that you wanted to play outside in the snow, well, you got to shovel the driveway.
That's it.
That's the only way you're going to be able to play. You want to go outside when it's cold, put your gloves on. It can be, freezing outside, but you want to go out there. And then having that investment and that sweat equity because one
That's
of
it.
the things that I think we talked about this. I think I had my team in 2019. We had a trivia night right before we played, and I felt like that group of guys, man, really really wanted it, and they had bought in so much to where we come in on a Saturday. Gym is filled with tables and chairs. The tarp is down, all type of debris on the floor from the night before. Well, we got to practice. Do you
Yes.
guys want to practice, or do you guys want to just go home? We play Chaminade Tuesday. I bet you they
Right.
practicing. So what y'all want to do? And they
Right.
cleaned the whole gym up. They took their time, but they had bought in with that sweat equity of getting their hands dirty, cleaning up, doing everything, pulling the tarps up, wiping the floor down. Then
Yes.
we practice for 2 hours, and then we come out and play one of our best games of the year versus you guys. And
Right. Right.
it was one of those things where we look back, and we say, man, that made our season. But not only that, once you guys are gone, you have that memory and that story in your head that man, I love the game so much that we was willing to do this. So now that
Yep.
carry on with you for the rest of your life to where you can, that can be your testimony to your kids or whoever you decide to coach or be around that, you locked in to something and was able to accomplish a goal for something that you wanted,
That's
so
right.
I mean, I just think that that's a beautiful thing. So, just moving on, I'm not gonna hold you too long, but
No,
let's talk about.
And
Uh-huh.
side note, that game got our season right because the next couple practices, we ain't had no basketballs, man.
See,
We-
you know.
so, but but no, man, it's a sense of appreciation and a lack of entitlement. You know what I mean? That lends itself to really pursuing something at its purest sense. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Not feeling like you're owed anything, or not feeling like just because you're who you are, you get something. It's just like, nah, man, I worked my tail off for this. I put in the time, sweat, and tears.
Mhm.
I like, I earned this. You
Right.
know what I mean? I earned this opportunity to show people how good we can be. You know what I mean? That's what gets it done. That's what gets it done.
No. So even just speaking of that, man, how was it like, man, coaching almost what three pros on your team that won state because you had that Will one of the big kids played baseball, right? Or you had a lot of ball players, two
Yeah.
guys playing in the NBA right now. But just talk about navigating through that year, and then what did you learn as a coach that you're gonna just carry with you for the rest of your career?
Yeah, so that group, man, was really special, and the reason why I say they were special was because not because, I mean, obviously they were extremely talented, but there's no secret that the second year we we made it to the semifinal and lost. You know what I mean?
Right. Hmm.
And the reality of the situation is, if you've ever done anything where you get close, but don't get it done, it's a gut punch. But the thing is, it's a great opportunity to see what type of people you got. You know what I mean? And those guys, they, I mean, the the whole next year, like they were on a different level. You know what I'm saying? Like it was, they needed very little coaching. You know what I'm saying? As far as
Hmm.
direction is concerned, we got in there every practice. Literally, every practice was intense. Everything was to win. Everything was competitive. But the special thing about that group was, the sense of family and community, like you said about your 2019 group, like those dudes were family, man, and still are
Hmm.
to this day. To the point to where they don't realize it, but a lot of the things that we do on a daily basis now is because of the stuff that was born then. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So the work ethic, the expectations, the examples that they set, these kids still hear about it. And the crazy thing,
Hmm.
BT, is they don't hear about it from us. It's stories that get passed down. Hey man, this is what Jayson used to do. Jayson said this is what Brad used to do. You know, I was talking to Mikey, and Mikey used to do this. You know what I mean, man? When I was in the middle school, I saw Mikey, Will, and Tyler doing this. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of cool as a coach to sit back and see these stories get passed down, and they kind of grow every single time they get passed down. They
Hmm.
become
Right. Right.
almost like wives' tale and stuff. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but like early on, when you have those guys that go through an adverse situation like that, and don't make no excuses about it, they roll up their sleeves and they go immediately back to work. That's special. That's special, man. And it's foundational for where we're at right now. Especially given in a time where it's so you have so many different people and opportunities just to be like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna make an
Hmm.
excuse. I mean, they did such a good job of looking out for each other. You know what I mean? And that's something that, um, it still stands today. It still stands today, man.
Right, right, man. So, man, if you don't go on no other platform, man, I want you just to know that, you appreciate it over here. Like I said, man, I
Right on.
keep an eye
Right on.
on you, man. I like it, even since we've been young, man, I admire you, for the things that you've done for the game, from the coaching aspect. I know you like to play the back seat role, and I mean, I'm always telling you this, man. Like, man, you've accomplished so much, and you don't put yourself out there to be like a glory hog, man. But I mean, Chaminade is in good hands, man. The game is in good hands, man. We need more people like you, coaching our kids and just being around, man. You just a real good guy, real good coach, man. And
Appreciate it, man.
man, man, like I said, man, I keep an eye on you, man. I watch what you do, man, and and that's how the game is, man.
That's how the
We
game
take
is.
from folks, man. We study guys, and I think before you can be a leader, man, you have to be a good follower. You have to follow
That's right.
in good folks' footsteps
That's right.
and observe, be able to observe certain things. And from just our conversations that we've had just over the last couple of weeks, man, I've just, you've got my brain just kind of, turning and going as far as like, I'm like you. I don't want to be in a position where, you look at the things that we did as a program 3 years ago and we're not evolving and growing. And when
Right.
I look at
Right.
Chaminade, I think Chaminade is just, every time you look up, you're on the forefront, on the brink of doing something special. And so, like I said, man, our basketball community is in good hands, man. As long as you stick around and you don't
Right.
go nowhere else, man, you know what
No,
I'm saying? So,
I'll stay
you
at
know,
Shelton as long as they'll have me, man. It at the end of the day, it's 100% about the kids. You know what I mean? It's
right?
100% about the
Hmm.
kids, and um, that's what it's about, man. So
Hmm.
the long nights, the sleepless nights, the things that the constant thoughts about how I can help this one kid or move the program forward, or when our coaching staff's thinking about that stuff, man, it's
Hmm.
it's all for the kids. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I think that's the mentality to have. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It ain't about us, man. Our days our days in the sun they're dead and gone,
Right.
man.
Hmm.
I might pick up a ball to shoot just to make sure I can still shoot the ball.
Hmm.
But the reality of the situation is, if me not playing helps another kid from a coaching standpoint, like I can coach a kid up, man, it's 100% worth it.
Hmm.
100% worth it.
Right.
And that's what it's about, man.
Yeah.
That's what it should forever be about.
Yeah,
So
because we're coaches, man. We're in the serving business, man. We
that's
serve
it.
kids, we serve others. We, like you said, it's not about us. And the thing
Mm,
that that I just just taking away from this is just that just making sure that we're doing things to make sure that our kids benefit from it. That's
correct.
the ultimate goal. Like when people say Chaminade, you know that you've worked hard to put that program in its right place. When people say St. Mary's, I'm in the process of just making sure that our program is staying, true. When people look over it and they try to comb over with a fine comb tooth, they know that,
Right.
oh man, Coach BT, he do it the right way. He's not trying to look for
Right.
just something instant. And I like the coaching process. I don't,
100%.
I'm not in a situation where I'm getting tons of elite guys coming here year after year after year. I may have to settle for kids that, may not be able to play on certain levels, but that's what I get. I love to have kids come in as a freshman. You don't know anything about them, but then by the time they're seniors, they've made a mark. They're off doing something positive. And like you said, man, that's what we doing it for. So,
That's it. That's
yeah.
it. I mean, the bigger picture, is if people understood, how much you put into the program, the kids, the institution, they would realize, like, man, they wouldn't know that you're constantly checking on kids' grades. You're constantly
Hmm.
trying to make sure their core GPAs are where they're at and where they're supposed to be at. You're constantly trying to connect and network with college coaches to try and make sure that you might have an opportunity down the road for a kid. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? The work never stops. It
Right.
never stops. But it's a good thing because of the fact that it's for the kids. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So, um, people don't really understand that it's not just walking up and down the sideline calling a horn set or calling a
Hmm.
baseline out of bounds play. That's the tip of the iceberg, man.
Hmm.
What we do is so far below the surface that on a day-to-day basis, it's hard to really give its value
Right.
to
No,
to
no
people
doubt.
who don't get it. You know what I'm saying? So, um, I know you gave me my roses, man, but don't think that on the South Side it ain't appreciated, man.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Um, and like you said, man, you know, guys that are putting the kids first, you know, yourself included, is pushing the game forward, and that's what we need to do in St. Louis as a community, and there's plenty of us doing it, and you know that's the agenda, you
Yeah.
know, push basketball forward and push these kids forward, man, because at the end of the day, these are the kids that are going to make up our future,
Nah,
right?
yeah, because I
So
mean, just like how we sitting around talking about our old high school coaches, we gonna be the old high school coaches in a minute. To where I mean, look, we already almost 20, 12, 15, almost 20 years in the
that's it.
game. So
That's
far, it's
it.
just a matter of time before we start seeing our former players get into coaching,
Yep.
and then they're
Yep.
gonna be taking over these programs around town.
That's it.
What are they gonna say about us?
That's
Did
right.
they play for
That's right.
someone that put the game first, that made it about them and not about the coach saying me. And I
Right.
take value in those things. Taking kids on their first college visit, being able to see
Correct.
a college for the first time, being able to
That's it.
all these different things that we may take for granted, man. Their memories is going to stick with them for the rest of their life, that they're going to
Right.
pass down to the next generation. So yeah,
Yep.
man. So yeah.
That's it,
So
man.
what for in closing? I mean, what all you guys have left? I mean, we're in the fall league. I don't know you. I know you guys, man. Stay in the gym. What you got on the agenda? And I'll let you get to practice, man. Let you get to working them guys
Yeah.
out. So
I mean, you know what, man? We're really just trying to say, you know, make sure our foundation's right. You know what I mean? We got an abundance of time with being able to practice now. So we're not really making it too complicated. We're just trying to, you know, hammer a few offensive and defensive principles down. And when, you know, first day of practice comes, you know, we can hit the ground running. You know what I mean? So that's it. Nothing special. You know, we're just over here just trying to keep our face down and working, man. You know, because that's what it is, man. It's just focus and work.